Hello, everyone, as looks like Woody just said. And I just realized that that's strobing. If somebody can give me a thumbs up, let me know you guys can hear me okay. That'd be awesome. Just so I don't talk to myself for an hour, because that's not awesome. And I'm going to see if I can fix this light real quick. There we go. Sounds good. Thumbs up. Awesome. Hey, everybody. I haven't been around much for the past week or so. It's been a pretty busy portion of my life. I had a wedding anniversary. I had some vacation time. We had the 4th of July here in the United States, if you're not in the United States. And now that I'm thinking about that, I just want to say hello to everybody that's worldwide. If you made it, I don't know what time it is where you are, but I appreciate you coming, whether it's 2 o'clock in the afternoon or 2 o'clock in the morning. It's awesome. I talked to Peter this morning via email, friend in the Czech Republic. It's amazing how many people and all the people that I get to speak to, and that's one of the reasons why I do this. It's really kind of awesome. Get some hellos out of the way. We got Nuno. Hello there. We got Snapshot FPV, who I believe is up in Canada. Hello over there. Mac Dolsky. I don't know where Max is, but hello to Max. I got Renee Wilson with me again. Talked to Renee a little bit back and forth today. Midlife Chaos, which again, that is an awesome handle. I got Woody here, and let's see here. What else we got? That's it. Congrats. Tell me how many years? How many years on the wedding anniversary? 15 years on the wedding anniversary, and we've been together for 21 years this year. So we dated for a little while in there. So I'm going to try to keep myself caffeinated and my throat can go and parched. We had delayed fireworks here, so fireworks were last night. So I was out there till about 11 o'clock, next town over, Portland, Maine, the biggest city in the state. And I had to work. I had to get up this morning at 5:30 to do everything I need to get to work. So a little squeezed here for energy. So a little caffeine to help out, right? And I don't drink coffee. Max is in New Jersey. Won't hold it against you. I got some coworkers just came back from New Jersey, and they said they refuse to go back because they're afraid they're going to die. But Max, first time you're here, by the way, I like to mess around with people. This is a community. We're all friends, so to speak. So hopefully you're up for that challenge. And I won't, again, hold it against you that you guys have the murder capitals of the United States and the fact they won't let you pump your own gas. It's okay, though. Renee, no coffee. Worse than living in New Jersey. Now, try living in New Jersey without coffee. How about that, right? Let's see here. Robert, yo. 15 times 3 for me. But this is not a competition, Woody. Not everything has to be. Bob Euler, hey, thanks, man. Appreciate that. Bob just sneaking in there. I really appreciate that. Yeah. Woody Kerm. Woody Kerm? Woody? I know it's Woody. Tell me it's not Woody. I know it's Woody. I know Woody. Anyways, so Robert's here, and I'm going to kick this one off. You guys, if you know what the program is, you've been here before. These live streams I do aren't really fully educational. They're more of an entertainment type of thing, kind of a hangout chat session. Hence the weird looking thumbnail of me wearing shades and just hanging out with some chilling chat type thing. But I like to talk about things I've gotten. I guess I'll get something out of the way there. In terms of getting a hold of me, you got email, kerm@builditbasement.com. It's on my YouTube channel if you need to go there. You've got my YouTube comment section. I believe I answer every single comment, usually within an hour or two, unless I'm sleeping or I'm indisposed somehow. There is also the Discord, which I like to put in the description of the videos, and I also have a little mention of it down here. So if you need to get a hold of me, if you want to get a hold of me, if you want to chat about something, usually this is the time that I bring up some of that stuff that happened over the course of the week or so. And now that I mentioned the stuff down here, I will mention the guys that just went by that way. Golden Jaguar, Poor Boy Channel, DeWitt 3D Canada, and my friend over the First Layer. Those are kind of my family of co-producing 3D people. How about that? I don't have a word for it. They're people that I enjoy watching. They're people I enjoy working with. They're people I think they don't necessarily go out for the entertainment value of everything, but we're here to try to help people, actually help people. And I just saw a typo, but I'm not going to fix it right now. And then the other people that are just going by right now, not to name names, but those are all people that are currently helping this channel by sponsoring it a little bit, which enables me to, you know, keep up on camera gear and buy lapel microphones so everybody can hear me. And I would say keep the lights on, but I have a day job, and if it wasn't for that, I wouldn't be able to do any of this anyway. So anyways, thank you to everybody. Thank you for watching. If you help out monetarily, that's awesome too. If you're just watching, I appreciate that just as much. And if you're as cool as Woody is, he sends me gifts. I got to put them together, but he sends them to me. Anyways, that's probably the coolest thing I ever got. Thank you, Woody, again, for the umpteenth time. I don't know how many times. Let's see here. I'm only 14. Max is only 14. Max, good. I wish my son is going to be 13 here in about a month. I wish that he would spend more time watching and being educated on some of this stuff. While you're in there in the comments, why don't you throw in, if you're going to stick around a little bit, throw in some stuff about you. You know, what got you here, what you're interested in 3D printing, if you have a 3D printer, those types of things. Again, it's a big community. It's family friendly, so more than happy to have you. Oh, thank you, Robert. Let's see. Awesome, Max. Yes, awesome. All right, so yeah, so Robert, or Rabba, if we're talking baby lingo, because I remember the little stories people tell me, was asking about the skirts. He wanted me to give the whole Marilyn Monroe thing here, which Max probably won't understand the reference to, but he had some questions about the skirts specifically, so I'm going to switch over to a different camera view here in a moment and kind of go over what those look like. And I don't know if you have any specific questions about the skirts, Robert, but if you do, go ahead and hammer them away, and I'll see if I can get zoomed in and whatnot for that. There we go. Another printer, another day. By the way, today you guys are actually first. You guys are the first people to see, other than a couple. I don't like to fib to people, or lie. So I have sent a couple photos to a couple of people, but for the video stream, you guys are the first people seeing the printer with its Build It Basement side logos on it. So it probably doesn't mean as much to you as it does to me, but I think it's pretty cool. I'm bringing this camera over here. Hopefully nobody gets seasick. Let's see here. So yeah, so that right there, and I'm kind of zoomed in a little bit. There we go. It has the etch plexi on here that we got from KB3D. Chris over at KB3D helped out with that. I sent him my logo in a basically like a shape file. Then he used a laser engraver to basically etch off some of the plastics, so it'd be translucent as opposed to transparent. I did that on both the panels, and Max, you may not know, but maybe you do. On the back panel, we have some ACM, which is aluminum composite material, plastic and metal, with the Voron logo on there, kind of etched away on that as well. So we're pretty much built right now. Doors are right here, right there. I told Chris to put his logo on at least one thing, so he put it on one of the front doors. I won't hold that against him. Yeah, so anyways, Robert, you wanted to see something about that. Okay, just want to see what goes where, which piece to which. Okay, awesome. All right, so which piece goes where? All right, so let me lower this down a little bit, because there's not a real lot with the skirts. And in actuality, you know, skirts are one of those finishing touches, really. You don't necessarily need to have them on there. I mean, they're on there pretty much for your protection, so you don't get the fingies, the fing angles in there. Even though there are holes much bigger than what you need to get your fingers in there. I don't have my bottom panel on yet, just so I can still get to everything. But let's go through it real quick. We'll start with the front, obviously. The front is made up of two large pieces. And actually, you know what? Robert, you have me in luck, because like I tell everybody, to print additional pieces, I think I may. No, they're on the outside of the room, and I'm gonna have to move the camera to get to them. I'm not going to do it, but I have spare parts. But I was gonna show you what the part looked like, not in the printer. But these are the larger parts. These in the back pieces of the bigger parts. So basically, they concave inwards, and then they're attached by screws on the top section using some of the T-nuts or the roll nuts, depending on what you got. I suggest roll nuts over T-nuts, but yeah. Right here you have the part that covers up your belt area. This is more of a cosmetic thing, really. It was so that you could do an accent color. Otherwise, you could have built it right into that part, but that's the way the printer's designed. On the front of mine right here, I have a mount. Let's see if I can pull it out just slightly here. I don't know how far back I can tip it, but I have a mount here on the back side of this. I can't really show it, but that mounts my WindShare video screen that we have on here for control. So that's pretty much the front. That's how that goes for the skirts on the front side here. On the sides, there's really only one big difference on the sides, and that is one side has fan, the other side has fake fans, which you could put real fans if you really wanted to, but I don't even run my fans on much more than about 20 or 30%, so it would be overkill to do much more than that. Your real issue with heat on this printer isn't really much to do with the bottom side, except for maybe a Raspberry Pi every once in a while. But so over here, this is made up of 3 separate pieces. You have your end pieces here. These are L-shaped or really thick looking boots, if you will. You have this right here, which is basically a T upside down shape. These are concaved inwards again. This one is outwards. I actually, during the build, I had flipped this around because in my mind it should be the other way around, but it's not. I actually don't have skirts on my other 2.4, so when I did them, it was the first time I did them. You have your fans right here with grills that go over them. Basically, you mount your fans to your grills, and then these get mounted into the base of this T-shaped part. All right, now on the back side, I'm sure there's a lot of people that know most of this already, so I apologize in advance, but sometimes you got to answer some questions, right? So on the back side, difficult. On the back side here, come on, there we go. You have similar to the front where you have these basically these sections that are covering up your belts that are cosmetic, if nothing else. You have your end ports, which are similar to the front, only this one will have your keystones. Mine has a Ethernet port here, and I have a block in this one, but some people put a USB there. If you'd like, you can do that. On the far end over here, I know it's a little bit harder to see, but I can't spin this too much more. You have your power inlet with a switch. Some kits come differently. Some of them have a 2-part piece where you'll have the switch separate from the power inlet. That's all dependent on the build that you're doing. This is the LDO kit, so it came with that in one piece. So there's that. And then I'm not going to spin this all the way around because it's not worth the labor of doing that. But on the far end, you have the same setup you have here. So basically on the left-hand side, only difference is no fans. There's only fans on one side, so you basically have a push-through situation. Again, if you really wanted to, you could do a push-pull if you're really concerned about that heat dissipation. But I will tell you from my experience, one, with the fans, it shouldn't be an issue, and 2, even without fans and skirts, it's not an issue. At least it has never been for me. I'm not in the tropics, and it's not 400 degrees down here, so that could be part of it, but that's my personal experience. So let me see if Robert's got any more questions about those skirts. I gave it the twirl like you asked for, buddy. Let's see here. The Terminator. Hey, the Terminator. Let's see, you don't get me all on a whirlwind here. Is good looking. Yes, that's what I call the printer. Anyways, let's see here. Boucher. Hello. She's a beaut. Yep. Gotta thank all my friends out there in Chicago going to Wally World for that one, right? And top of the flip switch, panel latches. Oh, yeah, we can talk about those in a second. The mount on the back puts the trim bezel for the display. The mount on the back plus the trim bezel for the display. Mount on the back. Which mount on the back? Be a little bit more specific on that. And the trim bezel for the display. So the trim bezel for the display is a Windshare display. I don't know if you've got the same display or not. Some people have purchased the exact same stuff I have. Some have not. I actually, on my GitHub, I'll show you actually in a second, but on my GitHub, I have a modified version of this because the original version didn't have a big enough cutout for the USB ports. You basically have to use some ribbon cable USB and HDMI. So I'm going to bring that up in a second, but if you got that back thing, go ahead and ask that one away too. To everyone else, thanks for indulging me. Yeah. Run and building mine now, struggling with current issue. But I'm sure when I get to that point, I'll have the same questions. I'm good, thank you. Okay, good. Early on the V2 build, I sourced my Raspberry Pi 4B, 8 gigabytes. Now I realize that it was way overkill. Actually, let me go back to this. I'm gonna focus on Macs a little bit because I'm really impressed. I'm really impressed with Macs coming in today. And Macs, again, just like I said earlier about the email and all stuff, that applies to you 100,000%. How about that? So it is overkill for the most part for running your clipper and your front end, your fluid or your main seal, depending on what you want to do. But I will tell you that depending on what you do for cameras on your printer, this one right here is a 4K camera as well as a 1080p Logitech C920, and I can make it struggle to basically create good frame rates with that Raspberry Pi. And as a Raspberry Pi 4B in that one, it's a 4 gigabyte, not an 8 gigabyte, but it's overkill, yes. Is it hugely overkill? No. Will you find a use for it? Probably. Let's see here. Let's see, Rev C right, Rev A came with a small one. So this LDO kit did not come with a touchscreen. I purchased a touchscreen separately. But as Woody's saying, it does come with a 4.3 Pi screen. This is a little bit different. Let's see here, display bracket, bezel, LDO parts from Trident. The display bracket and bezel are in the LDO parts for the Trident. Okay. Yes, if you're building it based on the LDO unit. Let me bring up my GitHub real quick, just so I can show you something. And I'm going to slam that over onto the screen over here so I can, come on, get over there. Okay. And there we go. So I'm on my tiny little GitHub. There's not a lot on here right now. Basically, I got my ulti-bib configs. This is what this guy's called. Woody wanted to call it the minion. I think it does look like a minion, but ulti-bib 1. So anyways, STL files right here. I have a couple of files that have been modified, or I have one. I have a couple more I haven't put in here. But this is, in case anybody needs it, this is the modified bezel for the wave share screen. So basically what I've done here, if you don't know, is right here, this normally goes straight up and cuts over. And that does not leave enough room for you to connect your USB cable to it properly. So I've gone ahead and notched that out a little bit further. So that's a file that's there if you're using a wave share screen, which I don't know how many people are, but it's there for the taking. All right, so let me get the chat back up here. And let's see here. Max is going to finish his build before I finish mine. There's a possibility of that. You never know. All right, so clamps and things like that. So let me modify this up a little bit again. Let me bring this back up so we can see a better view of that. I think that'll work. Oh, that's the wrong one. So as for panel clamps and things like that, on this particular printer, on the very top here, I use the standard, I'll just grab the camera. I think I can do that, yep. I use the standard Voron clamps for the top panel. So basically just screw down, they're right in the STL files for the printer. I chose to do that because have never taken the top off my other printer. I've never had a reason to. I'm sure now I've done this, I will wind up with a reason to, but to date, in the past 2 years or so since I built the other 2.4, I've never taken it off. But for the sides, and I think I might have one around here somewhere. Yep, right here. For the sides, I use, maybe this might be a better camera over here. I'm using these, they call them 270 degree. Well, actually, no, that's what the front panels are. These are the latches. So basically, these are spring loaded based on plastic. So they have a concave part right here on the front. That goes in here, and then once that goes there, they have a lock. So basically, they snap backwards into place, and that's to hold your panels. Now, one thing to note with these is they're available in multiple sizes, meaning thicknesses, and depending on where you're using it and how thick your panels are will depend on how big of a one of those clamps you're using. So if you're buying a kit, you're going to want to know what the thickness of your panels is, and then you're going to want to add on to that a little bit of extra thickness for your 3M backing, your foam backing for your ceiling. You can take that measurement. Usually what I do is I take the two of them put together and I subtract about a 0.5 millimeter or so because you want a little bit of smush. And then once you have that, you print the proper clamps for that. So those are on my back and my left and right sides. I have 4 on each side, 4 on the back, 4 on the left, 4 on the right. And I actually, this is something on this that's not, I don't want to say it's not normal, but it's slightly abnormal from most builds. Most builds would have you using a magnetic hold system for your doors. I gotta take a drink. And I've chosen, just because of my experience with my other printer, and sometimes if you try to print really quickly and you get some vibrations going, stuff like that, they can open up. And there's nothing worse than having a front door open up just enough to let a breeze in on a cold winter day and destroy an ABS print, have it lift off the bed a little bit. So, excuse me, I'm using clamps on my front doors as well. So basically what happens is once I put the doors on, and I have them closed, I basically just come down, clamp them shut like that, holds it shut. To get them back open, all I have to do is open that one up, and I can open the doors up. I like that. It's a little bit more secure. It's something you can do if you choose to. And let me look at the chat. Let's see here. Woody's asking, let's see, Voron 2350. Okay, that is a big printer. That is, and I'm assuming, Max, that's your first printer. That's a good one. It's the same printer Woody's actually building. So there you go. Lots of fun. Woody said it. Hello, everyone. Nuno is back again. Yes. Same here too, Max. A lot of 350s. I didn't realize there was that many 350s in here. Oh, great. Now Woody's speaking Portuguese with Nuno. Great. Go big or go home. That's awesome. Yes. Woody is the man. Woody cool. Yes. Let's see here. The old man. Yes. Probably shouldn't. Went 300. Couldn't resist on Fabrico. It's only $50 more. Yes. So my 2 cents on a 350, 300, 250. On a Core XY with the getting dry. On a Core XY Voron printer with a four level driven on your Z's, I think 250. If you're going to go 250, you probably don't need to build a 2.4. I think if you're building a that's weird. I don't know where that came from. A little ball bearing. I think if you're building a 2.4 Voron 2.4, I think a 300 or 350 makes sense. I will say that a 300 is going to, and I don't mean this in a bad way, but 300 is going to be a little bit more difficult to build precisely because the larger something gets, the harder it is, to make precise. But it's doable. Woody's got his working, and he's the old man. He's said himself. Let's see here. Renee was probably should know. Hey, Kerm, on the front, your gantry belt tensioner. I like the way it looks. Is that something you added? I don't remember seeing you adding it in the video. Let's look at that. See, it's good I do these. I always wonder, do I bother doing these? Do people actually like watching these or not? But it's good I do them because people have questions, right? So these right here, these are actually kind of neat. These are the Rama idlers, and these have detachable faceplates. They're like a car stereo from the 90s. If you take these off, nobody can steal your printer. That is a joke. So basically, the reason behind these is on the original 2.4, the path for the belts did not line up great. It was okay, but was not great. And you get some drag between your belt and your extrusion on your gantry. And there would be a little bit of, it's probably like 1 or 2 degrees off. These alleviated that. And then I almost went with the new ones on the new Voron build. But, and I haven't heard anything negative about them. I haven't looked for anything negative about them either. But these have, that screw is holding this part together, this everything. Let me get in here a little bit better. And let's probably zoom in on this a little bit, I guess. There we go. Look at that. High quality we are here down in the Build It basement. So anyways, this is a mono block, if you will, piece right here. This big part on the outside. This is a piece here on the front. And then inside here you have an idler that basically is on a screw inside of this blue portion that I have here, whatever color you make it. And then this has ears on it. And those ears actually go up and get tensioned by the 2 screws here. So you're getting equal tension on the top and bottom of that unit. So that's another good thing. You're not just pulling it from top or bottom, because then you wind up with some stresses one way or the other. The negative thing that I saw in the design of the new idlers on the revision 2 version is the cut point in the idler, the weak point / the cut point in the front is where the screw goes in, and that just doesn't mesh well in my mind. And it's just a me thing. I don't know there's anything particularly wrong with it, but I wasn't too keen on it. The Rama idlers, I've had on my other Voron for over a year. There was an issue with them in a previous version. I think I might still have a part. I don't have a part. Where, bring this back onto me, where the ears on the top and bottom sections of them would snap off on the tensioning of them. And they're not really weak by any stretch of the imagination. You got probably about, I want to say 8, maybe 9 millimeters worth of plastic there. So if you print them with a decent infill, 40, 50, 60 plus % infill, and using a good quality ABS or ASA, or if you're going crazy using polycarbonate or something like that, you won't have that issue. But that was the one issue that these did have in a previous build. I did have to replace the ones in my other one at one point in time, but I do like them. And again, with the fronts that come off, there are different ones you can do. Heck, these ones have the little Voron insignia on them. If you want to get creative, you could print these. It looks like probably the first 3 or 4 layers with a face color, and then do a backfill with a filament change to do the logos in a different color, which I might do now I'm thinking about it. But you know what? You can modify these things to your heart's content. So yeah, what else we got? Let's see here. Yeah, we did that. An Ender 3 version 2, and I'm using the box came in as an enclosure. That's creative. I have an Ender 5 Max, just so you know. I printed all the parts. I actually bought parts on eBay for my first Voron 2.4, but I was not happy with them. I still have most of them in a box over there. They were decent, but there was just some things that didn't seem to make much sense. any type of people, I think a lot of us are. First thing I did is I took a part and I printed a copy of that part using the PIF, or the print it forward specifications for that part, or even the Voron manual on the density of the infill and things like that. And I took out my kitchen scale and I weighed, I don't remember what part it was. It might have been one of the A-B sections or something. But anyways, I weighed it comparatively to the part I printed, and it was substantially less, like 20 or 30% less. So I wound up not using them. I took the hard road and printed the parts on my Ender 5. I actually bought an enclosure for it, but I was able to make it work. I learned a lot of things doing that. So yeah, it's a good path to be on to do your own parts and everything. I'm building an LDL like Max, but mine's a 300. I know that. Kerm, can you share how you got your belt threaded through the Rama idlers? Would be a help to others to hear. That, I don't know. It's really difficult. We can look at it real quick. More than happy to look at it. Let's see if I can get a decent enough angle here. You guys see what's over there on the wall. Let's see if we could, yeah, maybe that'll work, right like that. Okay, so what Woody's referring to is basically your belt position on these idlers, and the way these idlers go together, you pretty much have to run your belt through these before you assemble your belts. So first and foremost, what I would say to anybody that's building a Voron printer is follow the manual, but read through it first, 100%. A lot of it's not going to make a lot of sense, and it's kind of seems like an oddball, wasted time step to do that. But go through the whole manual. Second thing I would do is take all your parts. I would separate them out, and when I say that, I mean your printed parts, your electronics. Try to break them into sections based on not necessarily where they are in the manual, but what they do in your printer. And then watch some videos, because a lot of people do really well to visually see something happening, and you'll learn so much more doing it yourself eventually, and you're going to have questions and whatnot. But the reason I say that, and the reason why I bring that up, is because sometimes in the build, the manual does some things that don't necessarily, or at least I don't necessarily feel are the best order of operations to do them. There's a ton of different ways to build one of these printers, and for instance, for that is one of the first steps they have you do is attach your bed to the printer, which isn't horrible, but it's a lot of extra weight to have in there right in the beginning of your print assembly. So I wouldn't suggest it. If you have a kinematics bed like this, you're going to wind up wrestling with this thing falling out for the whole build. So you have that. So what he asked about this belts and the belts in general, what I would suggest you do is you have all your mechanicals inside your printer before you do any of your belting. I start my belts, I run one belt through the whole printer, and then I pull it back out, and I think I have a really good video on belting it, but I'll give you some tips and tricks. It's kind of hard to do it all right now on one of these live streams, but start your belt on one side. This is using the Chaotic Labs CNC tap, so it's a little bit different, but I have my other tap right here for viewing pleasure. And I still like this thing. Works really well. But so yeah, so run your belts on one side. Bring your belt over, loop it through, and the tip with the belts is on the ABs on the back side and on your gantry. Do realize that where there are cutouts, a lot of times those are helpful cutouts to help you run those belts. If things don't seem to be going the direction you think they should, take a step back and look at that path, because you can run belts in a printer, even on your first try. Probably running your first belt for your AB drive, for your your Core XY, shouldn't take you more than about 10-15 minutes. And I say that tongue in cheek. I know there's a lot of people that probably spent 45 minutes or an hour doing it. But if you use, like I said, that tip, but use the holes that they give you in your printer. Don't have your panels on, definitely don't have that going on, but have your gantry in there, have everything else where it needs to be. Have your printer ready to mount your tool head on. You can run your first belt through in about 15 minutes. You're going to then totally stab yourself in the back and pull that belt out. You're going to put it out on a table or do whatever. My last Voron belt, what I did is I took my belts. Actually, do I have some belt right here? I think I have some belts somewhere. I never have anything where I want it. Well, let me switch back to camera right here. So I took my belts, and the big thing is you want to have the exact same length or as close as humanly possible length of belt. The easiest way to do that I found was take your first belt and then leave one tooth kind of high on the first one, and then take your second belt and then interlock the teeth so there's one tooth hanging off. You got one snaggle tooth up there at the top of the first belt. Your second belt goes in, and then throw a zip tie on it or something so it's locked in place, and then take your known good length of belt that you ran the first time, which should be extra long, but you should have plenty of belt. You have an LDO kit, it should have enough to do at least 3 runs of belting inside your kit. So basically you could do both your XY, Core XY belting and still have enough to do a replacement of one of the 2 belts. But anyways, take your belting, your first one, which is good, and I would leave probably a good, I would say 6 or so centimeters on the end of it. So like that, extra belting on it, and then take your second belting, like I said, attach it with the tooth, and then drag it down along the whole thing, hold them nice and tight together so they're almost interlocking like a Ziploc bag. Bring them to the far end, and then cut the opposite one, the one that's short, by 1 additional tooth. You'll have exactly the same length of belts. Once you have that, you go back in, and I would run your belts one at a time, use the holes inside of everything, and you're going to want to come through and you're going to want to run, and this is kind of where, I know I'm long-winded. It's a fault, I know. You're going to want to run your belts through your Rama idlers first. And the trick to that is, because they're so stuck to the sides here, is you're going to want to loosen up your connections to the actual gantry to get them in there. Then you'll get some play in here. You're going to have these removed to go in. But once you have play in there, you can get in, you move it around the back. A lot of times a good, decent, thin pair of tweezers can help out to get you moving along. One of the things that happens a lot of times when you're doing this particular one is you'll wind up with the belt going inside the extrusion. The belt is not supposed to be inside the extrusion, but that sometimes can happen. So if that happens, pull it back out, doesn't belong there, and then continue on with your day. But I do have a very good belting. It says belting in the video. So if you do need help for belting, go and take a look at that. Where did I get the Rama idlers? Actually, let me not skip ahead there. Let's see here. I didn't skip ahead. Wow, I narrowed right in on that one. So the Rama idlers are by a fellow maker named Ramalama Ding Dong. No, there's a GitHub. If you do a search for Rama idlers, you'll find a Git for those as well as other parts. And I'll try to put them in the comments. Let me make myself a note. I'll try to put them in the description of this video. The link to those. If I can get my pencil. So link to Rama. Okay. Yeah, I'll do that. Let's see here. Hey, Carm, I don't get how to do the tap on an LDO printer because you can only find 5-volt tech hips. Okay. That's a great question. That is not 100% accurate, though. So the history of tap, I don't know how long you've been doing research, Max, but tap originally came out from the Voron team. And then, of course, shortly thereafter, those are taps that people are making themselves, basically using the optocoupler, which is basically an optical switch. You break a light beam, switch goes on, light beam comes back, switch goes off. So there was an optocoupler that they were using to do that, and then PCBs came out to basically make it easier for people, so they mount right inside the boards. we're stepping forward as time goes on and progresses. And then they came out with a 5/24 volt version of that board. Version 1 of that board, or maybe 1.1 or whatever version it was, it tended to not do so well. So what the issue was is on your 24 volt inside your printer up at your print head, that voltage could fluctuate. It could almost like a waterfall of water, you know, kind of comes down like a bucket. The voltage would spike, and the voltage would spike beyond, I believe, the 36 volts that could handle. It could get upwards of 50 or some odd volts and cause issues for that board in the optocoupler, causing it to fail. So there was a modification that I did on my board, this board right here actually. Yep. And let me do this. I think I can get this to zoom in on that just about right. Yep. So on this board, I've removed all of the components that were on there pretty much. I think it's a couple, maybe one capacitor, one resistor left on there. But this is now a 5-volt board that was 1-24 and 5-volt board. And long and short of that, get that back in the focus, is 5 volts. So that's a 5-volt board that was on the printer originally, and there is 5 volts on an LDO. So on an LDO kit, assuming you have one that accepts a stealth printer, it sounds like you have a pretty recent kit. There is a port for the NeoPixels. The NeoPixels utilize a data port to basically send the signal to those to light them in different colors and do whatever you want to do with them, and a 5-volt port. And you can pull 5 volts. So 5 volts in your printer is 5 volts. It doesn't matter if it's coming for the Neo, as long as there's enough available to use, and there is for this particular instance, as long as there's enough voltage, enough current there to be able to utilize it, you can use the 5 volts that's already available to you. Now, that being said, worst comes to worst, if you don't have 5 volts up at your tool head, you could run one additional wire. And I will say this, and I don't know how to stress it enough, but you're going to want to get some spare parts when you build your printer. I know, you know, depending on what your circumstances are, the printers can be very expensive or just a little expensive. But having spare parts is definitely a key. There's 2 things you definitely want to have spare parts of. One is you want to have spare parts of electrical connectors and pins. You want to do some practice on those. Be prepared to throw away about the first, you know, 5, 10, 15 that you do, and just get relatively good at doing those connectors, you know, your DuPont connectors, things like that. And then after that, the other thing that kind of strikes people off because they don't think about it is have backup or additional printed parts. Well, what I will tell people that are building printers, I will always say, as soon as you get your printer up and running, yes, print yourself a Voron cube or print yourself something fun, but shortly thereafter, start printing a replacement set of parts for any of the motion systems in your printer. Your AB parts, your gantry parts, your stealth burner, your clockwork, all those parts. Because there will come a day when something will break, and if it breaks and puts you out of commission on your printer, you're going to really, really, really wish you had that part, especially if you only have one printer. Now, if you have more than one printer and you're working off another printer, print your parts now, chances are you're probably going to reprint all your parts anyways because of the quality of the parts you're going to be able to get out of a nice made printer versus something like an Ender printer. If you get your printer properly tuned, the parts will look very nice. You're probably going to want to replace them anyways. So there is 5 volts up there for the NeoPixels. On my particular board, I cut the trace 24 volts that went to the probe that was available for me. So on the back of the board, basically cut a trace. You can use a razor blade or something, and you literally just cut it. And then I did a small wire jumper, and it's in one of my videos. If you look back, I know I'm saying my videos, and there are other videos out there too, I'm sure, but I know I did a video where I actually showed the board. I actually remember it's about 5 minutes into the video because somebody just asked me about it recently. So in that video, basically I cut the trace, and then there's a jumper that goes from 5 volts to where that 24 volts went into that probe port before, and that enabled me to have the 5 volts from my tap. And all that being said, the CNC tap only comes in 5 volts. So if you do plan on using a CNC tap, you're going to have to do that. If you're using a newer version and you get a newer tap board, they do have the 24/5 volt tap boards now. That's 100% up to you as to what you do with that. So I took the screwed in front cover off, removed the tensioner, and threaded the belt through the outside eye of the body, and then slid the idler, unassembled back and screwed it in front cover. Why did you have your front cover on already? Woody, you make it difficult on yourself, friend. I don't put, so all honesty, I printed multiple things on this printer already, even though I haven't shown it on video, because I like to kind of make things progress in a linear fashion so people can see it that way. But I would not put panels on a printer. I definitely would not put panels on my printer until it got to the point where I had to put panels on the printer to do my heat soak or something like that. You can print perfectly fine, even ABS or ASA, on a Voron printer without panels on it. Is it a little bit more difficult? Yes. Will you probably need an extra 5 degrees on your bed? Probably, but it's doable. So, and that goes back to the order of operations. I consider panels to be one of those finishing touches. Skirts are finishing touch, panels are finishing touches. Skirts actually more so than the panels. Like I said, my other printer still doesn't have skirts on it. Bottom panel, I'd probably get slapped on the wrist if I don't know who's gonna slap me on the wrist, but I'd probably get slapped on the wrist if I said you don't really need a bottom panel on it. You need a bottom panel on it for safety so you don't put your fingers where they don't belong, but mechanically and functionally you don't need them for the printer. Same thing goes, and I guess it's arguable for, ventilation, fanning, and things like that. Your Nevermore. I still don't have the Nevermore on this, but those are all things that you can work with. So yes, I imagine it would have been really difficult with the covers on there, but I've been able to in both of my builds, because on my other build I actually didn't build it originally with the Ramas, by loosening up the screws that these mount to, and then running the belts through, and then on the back side using a pair of tweezers to get them through. Yeah. Print the parts from the link I posted above, and you can get the pins in places like KB3D. You didn't post a link. You can't post a link. I will post a link though, since it seems to be something that people want. Let me go find Rama Git and stand by. You guys ask away some more questions while I'm doing this real quick. And I am on the Rama Llama. And I'm gonna copy and paste 2 links. This one is to the root of Rama's really cool stuff, because there's a lot of good stuff in there, not just the front idlers. I also used his purge bucket setup, so I have that. So that is the root, and coming now is the idlers for Rama. So there you go. Yes, KB3D for parts, pins. Chris at KB3D has been great. I haven't talked about him much, and I didn't talk about this stream, but he's been great. I'm gonna jump into something real quick here, because I don't want this thing to go on for hours. I'm not the 3-hour type streaming type of guy. Let's see here, front cover behind the magnetic cover. Let's see. Oh, you mean you remove those? Yeah, well, if your belts are loose, you can take those off, pull your belts forward and do that. Yeah, you'd have to have pretty loose belts to do that though. So it depends on where you want to. Yeah, you could do that. It's not a bad idea. No one else knows what the heck we're talking about, Woody, but you guys don't see this link. Nope, they don't see that link. That's just the way it is. It's the way the YouTube is, but I'm more than happy to post it. I posted them for you, though. First time watching a screen, heard of you, only everywhere, build a basement, only Vorons, only printers, what else? No, not only Vorons and not only printers. I'll touch on that for a quick second. I actually do a lot of stuff with home automation. I don't do a lot of videos. The problem with YouTube and when you get an audience base or viewer base is you get, I don't want to say stuck into something, but there's something you don't want to upset your core audience. And my core audience, for better or worse, is surrounded 3D printers. But I do a lot with home automation. I do a lot of other things with computers, Raspberry Pi projects, things like that. Actually, this printer is actually going to wind up in my Home Assistant instance to basically give me announcements throughout the house when printers end on my Amazon Alexas. Is that thing going to do something? Nope, I haven't unplugged. So not only Voron, mostly Voron printers, but not just printers. There's other things I do, but I kind of shy away from it a little bit. You know, it's kind of hard. And then in terms of printers, we're going to get into that in a second because my next project, which is going to be a late summer project before we get into an actual winter project, which will be a more bigger thing, is a rebuild on my old Voron printer. But I'm trying to figure out what my next printer build should be. I'm not so interested in like the salad forks or things like that. I already have a V0 behind me, a small guy. I don't really think I want a huge like 500 printer or anything like that, but I like the 300-ish size. But I've been kind of toying around with the idea in my mind of building something like a rat rig. But I'm not 100%. I've heard indifferent things about the kits that they provide, and they, you know, you can only get those kits from Rat Rig. So that's on my agenda at some point to figure out what I want to do with that. So better late than never. This is so true. How are we doing, Sid? Yeah. You need the rabbit still. Ha ha ha. I need the rabbit still? Who needs the rabbit? Talk about a enraged rabbit carrot feeder? Carrot rabbit? Yeah. Enraged rabbit carrot feeder. Yes. ERCF. I don't know if I need one. Talk about things that are finagled. I've never heard of one of those working without much. That's one of the things that people joke about is everybody's always working on their Vorons. Do they ever print anything? You want to take that to another level. I think the enraged carrot feeder jumps right into that because from everything I've seen, that thing is finicky. I would prefer to build an IDEX printer, which again is something that we might look into. We meaning you and I, us. But I think I'd do that before I did a carrot feeder. I think it makes more sense too. So you're not purging every, you know, I don't know. Not huge on it. Not sure what's going on, but Google doesn't want me to be a member of your channel. Well, it's Google. What do you expect? Google and Apple. I appreciate the thought, though. You can try it later. How about that? All right, so I'm going to put these doors aside. I was going to try to get these on today, but I don't know if we're going to get there. I want to talk about my rebuild, and this is kind of the kickoff to that. To some information because you guys are all going to be part of that rebuild if you're interested in being part of the rebuild of my Voron 2.4. And the big things on that are we're going to look at what the wear parts are, what needs to be replaced, what needs to be relubricated, what needs to happen to a printer after, I think, roughly 1,000 hours on that printer. So that's going to be interesting, I think, for me as much as for you, hopefully. But we're going to rebuild it. We're going to step it up to a pseudo R2. We're going to be changing out a lot of parts on it. And as part of that, I've reached out to a couple of vendors that I've purchased a lot of items from over the past couple of years and said, hey, I'm going to be rebuilding this printer. Are you interested in kind of sponsoring it? Because I haven't to date taken any real sponsorship. Just because I don't want things to be biased here. But I'm already using a lot or some of the parts, or specifically I am using all the parts from all the companies that I've been talking with because their parts have been decent for me up until now. So if there's a bias, it would have been a bias I already had, whether it be positive or negative. I don't think there's any negative ones, because why would I want to use stuff that I don't like? But that's a conclusion I came to. Hopefully you guys don't mind. Let's see here. It's not rejecting me PayPal. I can't set the payment with my card. It's already synced. I can't add the card for some reason. Well, you got to stop using those fake credit cards. That's the problem. Reboot. You want me to reboot? Anyways, while Nuno tries to figure out that, I'm going to pull a couple parts here. You can't see yet. This is the first box that came in, and I'm going to switch my cameras over and pick that. And this stuff, I reached out to Chaotic Lab, and the reason I reached out to Chaotic Lab is because if you go on their Discord, there's a lot of people that complain about a lot of things. And I was iffy on whether or not I was going to do something with them for my Voron right here. But I've been more than satisfied with the CNC tap. And I think Woody will tell you here that I'm not... Yeah, clone cards don't work. You got to have fresh ones. Yeah, ones that everybody doesn't have yet. But Woody will tell you that he had asked me about the CNC parts, and I told him I wasn't so big on the CNC parts. But I looked into it a little bit, and I will say I'm still not big in the CNC parts, but there are certain places in the printer that I think it makes sense. One of them is the tap, if you're interested in using tap, and I can go more into depth than that, but I do have, I think, 3 videos about the tap, the CNC tap, and why I think it's a good thing. But these are parts that came in from Chaotic Labs, and this is kind of just an open boxing type thing here. We're going to go more in depth when we're actually working on the other printer, but these are both tool-free tensioners. These first ones here, if you haven't seen them before, are tensioners for the Z-axis. And a little dust or something on there. These are much the same shape as the standard plastic ones you would print, but they're made out of aluminum. And let's get a little... You hear that. And what's cool about these is, one, this is a part where I don't think plastic makes a difference. There's not much dampening to be had here. There's nothing, I can't think of anything that would be bad about having this made out of metal versus plastic. The good thing is that these have thumb screws on them. And as you turn the thumb screw, you can actually tighten or loosen these up. So if you need to do maintenance on your printer, if you need to tighten up your belts, which admittedly, once you've had your printer printing for probably about 40 or so hours, you won't do all that often. But once you have that all set and ready to go, if you ever need to loosen up a belt to do some work on something, or you need to do something, see right now it's loose, these will allow you to do it without actually trying to get a screwdriver up into the little nook that they put up in there for the Voron designed ones. Weight-wise, these probably weigh a little bit more, but again, this is a frame part. In my mind, this is part, connected to the frame. It's not part of the gantry, so I'm not really worried about weight when it comes to anything that's not on the gantry. Mechanically, these look really strong. They look good. I am told that with tension, these will not loosen up, so that will be something we find out, right? And if it does happen, it happens, and I've already told them that, whatever happens is what happens. So that's the first thing that I got from Chaotic Labs, and kind of impressed with that. Kind of excited about those. If you did note too, these these are in the Voron red. This is going to be my first time printing my printer in red. So I did. Again, another company I've worked with in the past in terms of buying their products. Bought Polymaker for my red. I am going ABS. Again, I'm not using ASA. You could go ASA if you like to. I've never had problems with ABS. For me, ASA prints a little bit more difficult than ABS. Some people have the opposite, but basically it's going to go red and black on this printer. So the other thing that I got from Chaotic Labs for the rebuild is the tool-free tensioners for the XY. So we've been talking a lot about those Rama idlers, and I do like those. But what I have here is a, let me see how that goes. It's going to go like that. So this basically, your belt obviously goes around here. Again, this does go on the gantry, but they've done a lot of things to limit the amount of weight in it. They did not make it solid. They've got it screwing together. Parts are fitted well. They're nice and rugged. They feel really good, actually. This is actually the first time I've handled this part. So this is going to replace the idlers on the printer as opposed to using the Voron idlers or even the Rama idlers. And again, these have the thumb screw on them. No, it says thumb. It has the thumb screw on them to do the tensioning of your XY belts, your AB belts. Those sometimes you do need to modify, especially if you're doing tuning, just to make sure that your tool head is not, you know, at a skew at all. But these look pretty good too. They did a couple things that that make sense. They actually have the screw going into a bearing on the back side here. I know that's probably a small picture for you guys to see. Let me zoom in. Should have done that from the beginning, huh? So these actually go into a bearing down here for the screw, for this tensioning screw. So it's not just floating down at their end, so there's no wiggle room down there. It's actually really tight. The idler that's in here, it has a little bit of movement up and down, which is actually something you want because your belts will never, oh, I won't say never. Most belts are never 1000% exactly where you want them to be. I like how I use that 1000%. But that looks pretty good to me. So anyways, those are two parts that I got from Chaotic Labs that are going to go into the new printer when we start that. I'm going to look at comments here in case anybody has any questions about those. Let's see here. Let's see. Oh, CNC parts. Yes, CNC parts. Clone cards. Yeah, we talked about that. Sorry, I just came back. What did I miss? Well, we completely built a new printer. We did it all just for you, but you left. So that's what you get. Are you going to do another 2.4? I'm going to be rebuilding my old 2.4, basically to go through it, see what maintenance is required, what has broken down over the past 1,000 hours or so I have on it. And in breaking it down, doing the maintenance on it, one of the other things I want to do is rebuild it back into 2.4 specs with some additional goodies in there as well. So am I building another 2.4? No, I'm rebuilding my old 2.4. I'm going to be building another printer probably, if I had to guess, starting in about October-ish. But I'm going to need help doing that. And I'm actually going to need... a little caught up there. I'm dry in the throat. I'm actually going to be looking for people's help to help me choose and decide what parts are going to go in the rebuild. You know, things like whether or not I use a mag bed again, or an ultra flat bed, or do kinematics mount. Am I going to use titanium backers? What kind of hot end should I be using? Do we use the Clockwork 2? We're going to go tap. Are we going to do a clicky? Are we going to do a clicky tap? We're going to do, I don't know, a BL touch for all I know. I'm going to start putting stuff up on my channel for people to vote on that stuff. So, how do you test how much tension you have on your belts? Honestly, by feel. There are videos of people that do it by sound. I've never found an app that accurately does that. Sometimes they do good, sometimes they don't, and you don't even change anything, so I don't know how accurate that is. What I would say is start out with them relatively loose, and depending, so there's two ways to look at this. If you're going for speed, the looser your belts are without skipping teeth, the faster it'll be able to move because there's less friction. On the flip side of that, the more precision you want, the more tighter you want your thing to be, the tighter your belts are. So that being said, I think, and it's hard to explain. I think if you touch your belts, you should be able to freely move them. Actually, let me just show you. And that's wrong camera again. All right. We here? Yeah. So why is it blurry? Stop being blurry. All right. So this belt has a decent amount of tension on it, but I can easily twist it if I wanted to. It's not, you know, it's not taut. It's not a guitar string, but it's holding its own. It's not sagging, but it's just holding its own. Same thing with my Z belts. You know, I can easily pinch these together if I wanted to, but they kind of hold their own. So I would start looser. I would start looser with your belts and then start running them. And if you notice issues with your quality, start tightening them up maybe 10% at a time. And when you tighten them up, make sure you do it equally across all your belts, specifically the ones that are on the same coordinate. So on your Z belts, you want to basically, they want to feel pretty much the same on all 4 of them. If they don't, you might wind up with some differences. You probably won't, but there's a lot of emphasis people put on belts that really doesn't need to have a lot of emphasis. The biggest thing about belts, in my view, is 2 things. One is perfection's not as important as repetition and having, you know, having a known result every single time. You know, if you have a deviation on your Z of 0.01 and it's always 0.01, you can adjust for that in software. If you have a Z that is 50% of the time 0.000000001 and other times it's 5, that's not worth as much because you never know where it's going to be. So try to get things that are always alike and work your way off of that. Don't aim for perfection off the cuff, right off the bat, you know, all those phrases that mean from the start. Work on getting stuff that you can basically replicate and that you can have happen every single time. If you're not having the same things happen every single time when you do something, then there's something else happening that you're not aware of. You should be able to tell what's happening on the printer. So for tensioning, leave them loose. If you hear skipping or if you see really weird things happening, like for instance, you start off printing a square box or a Voron cube, and then on the 5th layer, it's askew. You know, it starts going like that. Your belts are probably too loose. Tighten them up, give them a couple twists, make sure you keep them equal around. Use your fingers. Use your eyes, use your fingers. I would say your eyes and your fingers are probably worth more than your ears. And this is a personal opinion type of thing. I'm sure there's people out there that have gotten tuning software on their phones and stuff to work quite well. I've just never had that experience. So, yeah, use the force. Let's see here. Max, are you ever going to use the Big Tree Tech Nomi? Let's talk about that in a split second here. Let me put this stuff away. What do you think about belts with a meter? Print kind of clips on the... So, again, it's all about repetition because that meter, anything you print isn't for stressing isn't going to be the same every single time. I mean, what temperature is that part? How many times have you tested with it? You know, plastic is known for weakening over, you know, repetition, over use. And then the cooler plastic tends to get, the more brittle and the more stiff it becomes versus the warmer it gets. So you'll find what works best for you. What works best for me is using my eyeballs, using my hands, and that's what I'd start off with before you buy into a bunch of gimmicks. And I'm sure somebody will be willing to sell you, whether it be Big Tree Tech or Chaotic Labs or God only knows who, a tool to test it. You know, something that's really precise. But again, don't aim for precision. You know, precision's great, but it's not. The end goal is having something that's repeatable, not, you know. You can get to precision from repeatable. You can't get to repeatable from precision because it can vary. Now, does that make any sense? Belt tension meter by Cripples, for example. Not even aware of it. I can't I can't speak to it. I'm not I'm not. I don't have one. I don't use it. Well, Renee, if you used it, how important was it to you? Let's see here. Snapshot. I tie my belts to the point where they can launch a toothpick exactly 5 feet. Yeah, I used to do that, but then my wife got the bigger toothpicks and they only went 3 feet, and then I wound up with belts that were all off. I mean, seriously. I used it on my Prusa. I think it's still working a year later. I guess the question is, would they be working a year later if you didn't use it? 5 feet, launch some Nerf missiles with them. You guys are fun. Let's see here. I've printed 4 of the belt tension levers. I'm going to put each to the same belt mark. And so Robert and Woody, that is your takeaway home assignment, is play with some of those testing devices and report back if you want. I'm interested, but again, I've never had any problems with it. I've printed over 1,000, probably combined between my V0 and my other 2.4 and a little bit I've done with this. I probably got, 15 to 1,600 hours of print time, and I've never precisely tuned my belts to whatever hertz. I used to make belts equally tight. Check the frequency around 130 hertz. Use a guitar pick for bettering. So I guess if I was going to use a mechanical or electronic means to tune my belts, I probably would agree with you using a guitar pick or something similar, a coin, and I probably would go as far as to picking up, or if you're already a guitar player, a guitar tuner, and set it to whatever is close to 130 hertz-ish. The other thing with hertz is, as soon as it's cycles per second. Is that at the beginning of the pluck, or is that mid-cycle for the pluck? Because it's going to go lower tone as it dissipates the energy. I don't know. It's going to be a while till that far. It's really all gantry work. Well, that's my point. It took time to print out, but the answer is what I was looking for. It's not important to be perfect, just consistent. Yes, 100%. Okay. Caught up. Let's look at another good box of goodies. We're actually running longer than I wanted already. That ain't good. I dropped that. But our new friend Max asked something that kind of brings us into something, so we might as well dig into it here in the last 15 minutes or so. Or my wife sent out an APB to find me. I have a goodie box. I have another goodie box. The first box was from our friends at Chaotic Labs. And this next goodie box is, let's see. Okay, I'll drink this. How much a difference can it really make? I mean, the tool head, if they're too loose, will they skip? They will skip. Yeah. Yeah, so if you're not skipping teeth, which is another weird phrase, but if you're not skipping teeth, you're probably going to be okay. The biggest thing is when you have quick motion on a Core XY, where your belts are going back and forth and how much slop you have on them, the tighter your belts are, the less, legible slop they'll be, and the looser, the more they'll be. But it's minute. It's little. There's as much of a science here as there's an art, so keep that in mind. Yes, your motors will heat up if your belts are like the springs in the system, or not like springs in the system, depending on how tight you make them. Okay, so let me switch over cameras here again. Yay, got the right one. So, couple things. First thing I'll start off with is, because somebody asked for it, is a know me. You know me, I know you, we know me. So Max, here is your know me. Yeah, so this is, if you aren't aware of what this is a round LCD. Is it AMLD or is it LCD? Anyways, I think it's a organic light emitting diode screen by Big Tree Tech. It's a lot like my watch screen. It's actually, hold on here. Wait a second here. Is that a coincidence or what? Huh. I gotta talk to Garmin about what they charge for these watches. Anyways, this is a little micro screen, not micro, but small. It's got an ESP32 on the back, which if you don't know, it's a microcontroller. Just powerful enough to basically adjust the pixels on this screen to make it display things. This has Wi-Fi on board, and then power. You could also run it via USB if you want for power. And the Wi-Fi basically looks at your Clipper instance and pulls information to be displayed on the screen using some additional software. So where this winds up going is, and I had to do a little research on this because I wasn't sold on it at first, and we'll see where it lands anyways because I've never used it, so I can't really talk about it much, but this winds up going over the front shroud of your part cooling fan. So basically in that little hole, and I think I have a spare one of those. I do. So this little guy winds up going around about like that-ish. Something like that. So, and I just caught a glance from what Woody just asked, and it was my biggest question too, is does it disrupt cooling? So there is a modified part where the ducting for the fan inlet is actually around the perimeter, probably about, I'd say 8 or so centimeters in from the faceplate. So the LCD sits flush, or not really flush, it's back probably 2 millimeters from the face of this unit, something like that, and that's it for electronics pretty much off the back of this. And then basically your fan is pulling in air from the perimeter here, and according to their documentation, and notice how I say that, the way I say that, according to their documentation, the flow, because of the way that the air is getting pulled in, is actually better than it is normally using the front of the fan to pull that in. So I can't speak from experience, and I probably never will because I'm not going to buy a flow gauge to be able to tell what the flow is, but I will speak based on what I see when I use it. So I'm going to look at comments real quick because I think that's an interesting part that's going to be going in the new printer, and as I go through these, I'll be thanking Big Tree Tech, but that is one of the items they sent me, and I will tell you something cool about this in a second. I have for an idea, see what you guys think of it. Yeah. Let's see here. Winky Dinky. We keep throwing Kerm off topic. Yeah, I know. I'm going to be up forever. You're going to put that in tool head? Yes, that goes in the tool head. Just as we were looking at there, I know I'm behind you, and you probably already know that by now, so there you go. What is it meant to display? So, this actually can make this face, it can make faces if you want to make faces at you, like a big angry one when you have a filament jam or something. Just joking. I'm sure you could probably work that out, but what this will display for you is it will cycle through, I think by default in this code that you run, but this will cycle through your extruder temperature, your bed temperature, your time left on your print, things like that. And I have an idea for a different purpose for these, and I think Big Tree Tech's really going to like them. But I either need to learn more CAD or I need to send Woody some money or something because, and I'm going to throw this out there, see if you guys think this is a decent idea. But what do you think? When I saw this, I thought, car gauge cluster, where you have a tachometer, speedometer, fuel gauge. And what I was thinking of, and I only have this one. This is the only one they sent me, but I might wind up buying something. They're not that expensive. Is 3 or 4 of these on, let me get my other camera going here. So 3 or 4 of these on the front side of the printer right here. Get rid of the screen, because honestly, if you've had a printer with Clipper on it, you're probably not using the screen very often, if at all. and basically have them like a gauge cluster. So you could have like a one screen with your extruder temp, one screen with your bed temp, one screen with your print time, you know, maybe 3 or 4 of them across, kind of looking like a gauge cluster. I thought that would be a really good idea. I think I'm the first person to think about it, which is why I'm telling you guys right now before I do it, because somebody's going to do it if I don't say it. What do you guys think? A lot of people cooling slightly affected through, they say, otherwise Kerm is going to tie it into home automation so it displays when his dog escapes. So I haven't told everybody this, but you guys are here with me right now. My dog passed away. It affected my family, and I don't mean anything by it. You don't need to apologize or anything like that. But my boxer puppy, he passed away. He's only 2 years old. Seems like he had a cardiac arrest or something. My son found him on the floor a couple weeks ago. So, anyways, I don't want to talk about dogs. Let's see here. Is it going to be a Voron? Where the head's moving like a bazillion miles per hour. You'll be able to read. Yeah, so you're right. If it's on the tool head, there's a good chance that you might not be able to read it if it's moving really quickly. So it can do different colors too. So maybe you have a green screen when it's cold, or a blue screen when it's cold, and a red screen when it's hot. This will do different colors as well as, you know, displaying things. But I like my gauge cluster. What do you guys think of the gauge cluster? Is it me, or is the stream buffering? It could just be me. I don't know. Maybe it's you. The stream is buffering. 4 Wi-Fi screens. Yes. 3 or 4. I don't know. I saw a display mod like that, but using square display in the skirt. Gotcha. Sorry about your dog. Yes, that's fine. I like your gauge clusters. Just make sure you have the physical panic button somewhere to abort the print. So that's already a mod that I've seen, is basically using some of the holes in the bottom of the skirt as buttons. There's like a button mod for that. And I will also say 2 things about that. One is usually when you want to abort a print, it's usually in the beginning of the print, and that's usually when I still have my mainsail up, or my fluid up, so I can hit it there. And by the way, Andrew, hey, I don't know if you've been here for a while or not, but I just see you poke in. So, but the other thing is too, you always got the button on the back, you know, the power button. It's not much different to hit that power button than it is to hit the emergency button. It pretty much shuts everything down right away on either one of those. So, yeah. Yes, buffering. Why is it buffering? It looks, I'm looking at my screen over on my other screen, and I don't see any buffering. There's about a 5-second delay, but anyways. Good night, Dad. I'm assuming that's Haley, because Keegan wouldn't be going to bed. Good night, Haley. Have a good night. I have enough problems with buttons. My 3-year-old grandson is always going up to the printer, pushing the buttons on the LCD screen. Yep. Okay. So, anyways, let's continue with the parts here, so we're not here forever. But Max, you asked about that. Yes, I'm aware of the Nomi. It's going in the rebuild of the new printer. It's a little late to put in this guy right here. This is the ultimate build, but you know, ultimate's only ultimate for a week or so. Let's see what else we have here. We have some canned parts. So let me find my other side of this. So that is another thing that comes up pretty often, is the question of can. So the rebuild of the other printer, the Mailer 2.4, will include CAN. I'll be using CAN bus on it in the upgrade. Big Tree Tech has sent me the BT 2209, SB 2209. Sorry. This is the version 1. This seems to be the most complete board right now that I know of. It has all the voltages you want on it. It has an accelerometer on it. It has a driver here for your extruder. It's a very nice board, actually. I was looking at this. It's fused on here. It's got a USB Type-C port if you want to do that, as opposed to using CAN, because this will do USB Type-C or CAN. It's a two-part system, so it comes just like the other stealth burner parts. You have your back end part and your front end part for your fans and your LED lighting and that type of thing. So those slide together like this. There's a pretty robust cap right here. I mean, I can't talk too much about the components. Most of them are surface mount, but it looks pretty nice, actually. It looks like a very nice part. So the new printer is going to have CAN in it. I do know that. They also supply you with a CAN bus cable that you can utilize if you decide to. It's got CAN bus termination on this end, and it has power leads on this end here, so you can put them into your power supply wherever you're going to have that. They also provide you with pins and connectors in case you need to modify things. So if you don't have spare pins or connectors, they do wind up giving you a decent assortment here to do what you need to do. I still suggest you get some extras. Maybe work on your extras for spares and then use the ones they give you. But I think the most impressive part of this is the rubber ducky. Rubber ducky that comes with it, huh? So the new printer, not the new printer, but the remake of the printer, the 2.4 rebuild, is going to have the Nomi, and it's going to have CAN in it. And I'll look at the comments real quick, see what's going on. What is CAN? What does it do? Why do you want it? Let's see what people are writing. Would you consider using a sharpened mini extruder in a Mantis print head design with 3 fans? Seen a lot being used on high-speed printers. I don't know, Woody. I really don't. I think it's ugly. First and foremost, I think it's pretty ugly. I like things that look sleek, and that thing does not look sleek. I'm sure it works really well, but I'm not sure. They'll be part of the vote. Like I said, on the channel, in the community page of Build a Basement, I will be having some voting, which will include tool head and extruders and things like that. So if that's something you're interested, Woody and other folks, please make sure you check that out. Back to Snapshot for the CAN stuff. Yes, I get jumped around. Jason, yes, yeah, definitely have to recrimp. I've almost had to recrimp every connector I've ever had come with a printer, even if it was part of a kit, just because. So CAN bus has been around. Let me switch over back to here. CAN bus has been around for a long time, used mostly in the automotive industry as well as in the industrial industry. And what it does is it allows for communication between machines or machine parts via a 2-wire system. Usually your end termination, it's a series communication, so usually your end termination has a resistor on it, so that's the end point. But what it allows you to do is basically encode all the information that your tool head requires to work. Your extruder, your E-steps, your fan information, your neopixels, all that type of stuff. Everything that you'd have normally going in your drag chain to get encoded over the CAN bus and require only 2 wires to do it. So for CAN bus to work in the most rudimentary sense, you need 2 wires for data, basically a high and a low, and then you need power. And the power actually is only required because you got to get power up to tool head for your extruder and for your hot end and things like that. But everything else then basically it's packed in via the magic smoke that's inside of electronics to those 2 wires. Again, your E-steps for your extruder, your fans, your fan speeds, your temperature on your hot end, all
all those things all get smashed into 2 wires and sent back over. And that way you only have to have a single decent wire going back to your printer. Allows you to use an umbilical cord as opposed to using a drag chain. Reduces the amount of overall weight at the printer. So it does quite a bit. One thing that I think is an arguable point is whether or not it makes it simplified. It simplifies the wiring. I agree with that. But I don't know if anybody's ever going to convince me if it simplifies troubleshooting. A point A to point B wire, when you have a failing part and there's 2 wires going to the average part in the print head, you have 2 wires to look at, and you basically check 4 points. You check point A, point B, point A, point B. With a CAN bus, you don't have that. You either have a problem at your board, you have a problem at your CAN cable, you have a problem at your tool head CAN, basically your breakout board there. There's encoding, there's software, there's a lot of things that are happening. So as opposed to tracing a mechanical issue, you have possibly a software issue that you're working with. But I'll deal with that. That's something I'm willing to work with. Let's see here. More than physical connection is data 2. Yes. Data 2, I'd say it makes it harder to troubleshoot. Yes, I agree with that, Jason. And by the way, hello. I don't know when you snuck in here, but we see you. All right, so we got the Nomi. We've got the CAN bus. And I've had, those are things that were provided by Big Tree Tech. And smart filament sensor, I'm not going to open that up. I'll open it up. I'm not going to go too deeply into it. I bought a couple of these. These I bought myself. I might put one on this printer. I'm going to put one on the other printer. I paid for that my own money back a while back, but it's Big Tree Tech, so this is my Big Tree Tech box. My big box of Big Tree Tech. Big Tree Tech has graciously provided me with a new octopus. So again, I'd like to thank them for that. This is going to replace the spider board that's currently in the other printer. And we get another rubber ducky, which is nice. So you probably know what the octopus is. A lot of people are familiar with it. I think a lot of people use it. Somebody asked me recently about using the Manta. I really like the idea of having an MCU versus having a computer and MCU all in one. I'd like to say it's less points of failure, but it really isn't. But it's less of an issue when you do have a failure to switch out one part versus having to switch out one part that has multiple parts in it. So again, Big Tree Tech's sponsoring this, this upcoming rebuild. They provide that, which is pretty awesome. And then of course, they provided some stepper drivers, so that's nice, right? Some 2209s. So we'll put those to good use. Kind of surprised they all came in one box all together, but that's cool. That works. Let's see here. Andrew, you have a Jeep. You can use those ducks in it. Seems to be all new age. I do not have a Jeep. I do not have a Jeep. All right, what else we got in here? They sent me, which is already built into the CAN bus, but they sent me one of their ADXLs, which can mount right to the front of the stealth burner. I plan on using that for this guy. So thank you, Big Tree Tech, for that as well. And maybe we'll be able to do some comparative between what this says versus what the CAN bus says, because I do have some internal questions as to where mounting an AXDL or ADXL, whether or not mounting it in one location or another makes a difference. Seems to me the further out it would be on a tool head, the more it would pick up for movement, and the further inside, the less it would pick up for movement. But maybe that's something we'll get to play with. Let's see what else is in the big box of goodies. What is this? Oh, this is a good one. Again, thank you, Big Tree Tech. This is their HDMI 7. This is their 7-inch touchscreen that they graciously sent to me. So this is a very, very large touchscreen. for the printer. And basically you got HDMI on the front here, you have USB Type-C for powering it, and it has audio out for whatever reason. If you wanted to, you could probably use this for other projects, but as it stands, we're going to use this for the printer. So that's pretty awesome. Get a nozzle AXDL. Yeah. So anyway, 7.5-inch screen there. So if you wind up mounting a screen to the front of the printer, that will be the screen that goes there for touch control. Put that back in. And this is, like I said, just a quick kind of a unboxing here, as quick as I can make it. So thank you, Big Tree Tech, for that. And the big thing, there's one more thing in this box. Does anybody know what that is? I have not seen many of these around, but it is from Big Tree Tech. Does anybody have a guess? Might be cool if you put a monitor on the back with graphics while playing, with graphics playing while you print. On the back side of the printer, so when you look into it, you'd see it. That would be pretty cool. Yeah, that'd be cool. You could use the 3D view file to do that if you want to. Anybody, any ideas what this could be? You won't win anything, but you'll have my respect. You guys already have my respect, but no, nobody. All right. So this is the last thing in the box here. The big Nevermore. No, Big Tree Tech doesn't send big Nevermores. It's one of those tablets that includes Clipper. Sid, no clue. All right, Jason's right. Jason's right. It's one of those big tablet thingies that has Clipper already on it. This thing is actually packed, sealed up, so let's rip into this real quick. Take a look at what we got. It is pretty sweet. All right, let's put this aside. So this is the Big Tree Tech Pad 7. Not only a Clipper pad, unless you want it to be. So I've never seen one of these in person, and let's take a look. So the first thing they do is they send you like a quick start guide, information about it, picture of it, specs, things like that. Yeah, you got the stickers that come with everything that comes for 3D printer stuff. And then you have the actual unit. So on the back side, well, on the front side, you have, what is that? How big is that? That is, 7-inch screen again. You have a 7-inch screen. I'm going to zoom this back out a little bit. You have an audio port. You have up and down arrows. Don't ask, I don't know. You have a full-size USB. You have USB Type-C. You have an SD card slot. You have speakers on the back here. I can see them through these holes. So it looks like a couple of little drivers back here. You have a DC input. You have 2 more USB ports. You have Ethernet. You have a CAN connection, a low and a high. And then you have an SPI here as well. Up here, it tells you it's 1024 by 600, 7 inches, 12 volts, 2 amps. It's quite a bit of power. The little thing comes with a little stand, like that. So this is meant to sit next to a printer, or possibly multiple printers, wink, wink, nudge, nudge, and be used as basically you could use this as your controller for your printer. So this with an MCU hooked up via USB replaces a Raspberry Pi. And these are actually cheaper than Raspberry Pis, even today, unless they drop prices in the past 24 hours more than they had before. Inside the box as well is another ducky. I don't know if we'll be able to get this back in the box. We've got, looks like a USB dongle, some wiring for something, a power cable connector, a screen cleaner, and some adapter plugs for worldwide use. Put that back in. And then on this box over here, what do we got? Oh, we got the power adapter. I'm gonna take that out. We know what that is. So basically what this allows you to do is this comes with the Big Tree Tech equivalent of the CB1 board from Raspberry Pi. Let's see here. They call it the core board. It's got the CB1 inside of it. Underneath this heat sink. Is this the right driver? Let me see. Let me see if I have a driver right handy. Why not open it up, right? We just unboxed it, so we may as well just open it up. Let me look at comments while I'm unscrewing this. Yes, it could be used as a Raspberry Pi replacement. That is true. I need to see if it'll work with Prusa. I have a mini Octoprint Hertz after using my Voron for so long. If you can connect to the MCU via USB as opposed to UART, this should work for you. And let me see if I can get this out. Little thermal jiggy there. So right there, yeah, you can see the CB1 board, which is basically the board computer on the unit. So you can replace this board with the Raspberry Pi equivalent. It is socketed, so it will fit either one if you choose to do so. I am told that as it is, it runs Clipper. It's already got Clipper on the SD card. So basically you throw your firmware out, put it in MCU, you're basically rocking. So for anybody just for the first time getting into something like this, and you don't know much about software, Clipper, or anything like that, this is actually a very good tool, a lead-in tool, if you will, or a stepping stone, because based on my understanding, not used because I literally just opened it, you can take this out of the box, power it up, and then dump your firmware file out of this, load it into MCU, hook this up via USB, point your Clipper file, your configuration, your printer.cfg file in the right direction, and you're up and running with Clipper. It's preloaded, pre-installed on this, and we'll be looking more at that once we actually use this, and the other, once we actually use this. But I'm going to put this back together now. The other thing is that when I was speaking with Big Tree Tech about possibly doing some stuff, I might not be using it for that purpose. Meaning I might not, my plan is not really to be using this as a Raspberry Pi replacement. I will definitely be talking about that because I'm sure that's, that's part of the market they're going for. But what I want to do with this is basically put I forget what the chipset is in this. Basically it's obviously a Chinese chipset, but there is a version of Linux that has cores that will run on this unit, and what my proposed use of this will be is to actually use it as a kind of a Clipper branded, Big Tree Tech branded web browser with tabs for multiple printers. So having basically tabs on this for the Ultibib, tabs on this for the other printer, which will remain unnamed, even though I have a design and everything else I have not shared with anybody except for Chris at KB3D. So if you're interested in that, Actually, you know what? You guys do me a favor. If you talk to Chris or if you email Chris or you buy anything from KB3D, see if he'll tell you what I'm planning on naming my other printer. I want to know if he spills the beans. It's a little experiment. Tell him you get him an extra $5 or something. Anyways, I got a whole theme going on here. Since it's going to be blue and not blue, it's going to be red and black to match those CNC parts. And I don't normally, even though Voron red and blacks kind of go hand in hand. Since it's going to be red, I had an idea, so bouncing it off of Chris. So we're going to do some fun stuff with the design on that again. So I'm going to go back over to the comments real quick. See if anybody has any questions about this stuff in general. Any questions about me, the Ultibib, or the rebuild, or what's going on, or problems, and then, yeah, we'll see where we're at. Let's see. How much is that? Let's see. Let me go back up here. Is one of those tablets that include Clipper? Yes. I know sometimes it's hard to know whether or not my explanation was good enough, but the tablet has Clipper already installed on it. It's got a minimal operating system with Clipper on it. The SD card is preloaded, so when you turn it on, it basically will load the Linux kernel and have Clipper screen already shown on it. At which point you can SSH into it if you hook it up to your Wi-Fi or via Ethernet, and then basically using something like Angry IP or something, find out what it is, get into it, and then you could go in and kind of work with it the way you would any other Clipper instance. But it's already, everything's already installed. And the good thing about that is, since it's a known piece of hardware, there should be less issues. I don't know if the proper way to explain that is that way, but whenever you have, it's just like a Windows versus a Mac, okay? And I'll tell you right now, I'm a Microsoft guy, I'm not a Mac guy, but the reason why Macs tend to have less issues is because they control the hardware and the software all together, and that pairing, that mating of all that stuff together makes it a little bit easier to control. That's what they're kind of doing here. So let's see here. Oh, nice. Heard about those today. Haven't looked at getting one yet. Raspberry Pi replacement. Yes, you could use it as a Raspberry Pi replacement. I think that's probably what their main selling bracket is. As for cost, you can Google it. I don't know. I won't even say what it is because I know there's people from different countries here. So it's not hugely expensive. It's a little bit less than a Raspberry Pi. Need to see if you work with Prusa. I talked about, I saw that when it came up. Another price thing. Nuno, you have to look it up yourself. I'm sure in Portugal it might be differently priced than in the United States. Hopefully they run the standard Clipper and not a fork. So they're not really running a fork. So Clipper itself is not a fork, but the kernel, the Linux kernel it's running on top of, is a fork to run on the processor that's on the CB1. So basically, if it runs on the CB1 just like you would on a Manta or something like that, that's about as forked as it is. So it's not completely forked up. Max, hey, just see, thank you. Really appreciate that. Yeah, thank you. Hopefully you stick around. If you ask questions, ask questions. If you have questions, ask questions. And if you don't, I'll think you're missing. So I really appreciate that. Thank you, Max. Aside from external connections, why can't a simple tablet do the same thing? So snapshot, a simple tablet can do a lot of the same things. My friend Golden Jaguar, who has not put up much content lately because he's had some life changes, actually does it quite often with tablets and with cell phones. The selling strategy of this part and the interesting part about it that I like is they've taken a lot of the guesswork out of it. So you no longer, if you want to use a tablet right now, you'd have to put it into developer mode. You'd have to install some additional software. You'd have to do some modifications to make it work. This, on the other hand, already has everything set up and working the way you want it. Plus it'll work off 12 volts, so it'll match up with your printer, so you don't have to have a separate power source for this. Maybe even a mount for this is in the future, we'll see. And on top of that, you do have the additional connections for the CAN bus and things like that. So if you're using a tablet, you're not going to have the CAN off of this. This right here will connect directly to the SB 2209. Pretty much you could build, okay, so here it is. So pretty much if you wanted to build a printer and you want to keep things simple-ish, these are printers, so sometimes it's simple, sometimes they're not. Sometimes they seem complicated when they shouldn't be. But right here, so, and this isn't the small ancillary parts, but if you had your MCU, you had a CAN bus unit, like the SB2209, and you had the Pad 7, you basically have all the technology, all the big technology you need to run a whole printer. You throw some steppers on that board, you hook your CAN bus up to that tablet, and you're rocking. It's pre-built, so it's about it's almost like an LDO kit for electronics, specifically by Big Tree Tech. And actually, you know what? I wouldn't be surprised if you don't see somebody producing a kit that comes with something like this, because the issues, we'll see when we get into it, but I would assume the issues that one would have building a printer like this is going to be minimal, because it's all meant to work together, and should be pretty good. Let's see here. Looked at that, just don't want to run additional connections to the front. I'm going to sacrifice my Pi on a V-core, replace it with a Manta CB1. Do my daughter's 0 with her. Yeah, to each their own. Again, I think personally in the long run I'll be using it for a kind of a branded, since it's Big Tree Tech tablet, running a Linux core with a browser, and then basically I've tabbed off for my different printers on it. But when I first set it up, I'm going to be using it with the printer, and I think it's just going to be really smooth in terms of somebody for the first printer starting off, because you kind of forego having to do the Linux install, the burning of the SD card, all that type of stuff. About the only things I don't know, and I'm sure we'll learn together if you stick around when it happens, but the thumb drive they gave me, for all I know, that might have a firmware file on it. So basically I haven't even looked at the instructions. Take the firmware file from that thumb drive, we plug it directly into our Octopus, we connect them both together. Now you got firmware, you got your Clipper instance, you've got your MCU, and then maybe there's even a printer.cfg on there for different type of printers on there. I think what they're doing is they're making it as cookie cutter as possible for people to get into the hobby. I can't fault anybody for that. I give big credit to Creality for their Ender products for doing that as well, making a low-cost printer for people to get into the hobby. So, oh good, I have a Pi via USB running Octoprint, so I assume that worked in. I would assume so. What I would do, Jason, if you're interested in that, is Google search CB1 Octoprint. Octoprint is a little bit more CPU intensive than other front ends that run on top of Clipper, but it should. Why can't? Why can't? I don't know. Why can't? All right. Let's see. Creality tried something like that, but Nero 3D found that there were some safety issues, but that was Creality. Yeah, Nero's really worried about his house burning down sometimes. I agree that safety should be one of the top things, but there's inherent risk when you got things heating up to hundreds of degrees in Celsius. Obviously, everybody does everything on risk. You should do your own testing. I think specifically the product that Ender worked with was a forked product that was closed source, so you couldn't really get into it. And specifically, it had to do with the fact that the printer didn't do an MCU shutdown when it sensed an issue. I don't remember the specifics, but there's been multiple issues like that with stuff. So basically, the way Clipper is made, it's supposed to be to the safer side. So if it loses a thermistor or if something's out of range, it cuts down. Whereas I think the end of product you're talking about didn't do that. Let's see here. Have we tried Orca Slicer? Yes. I'm playing with Orca Slicer now. Getting used to the interface, but probably going to be doing more Orca Slicer. I think I'm going to be going to Orca Slicer. Spider-Man, no, but close. What is he going to keep? Black Widow, no, not at all. Yeah, but I have to confirm. Use only the mini when the Voron is busy or broken, so not often. The reason Windows has so many issues. The kernel is full of garbage trying to make it work with everything. Yes, that's what happens when you got drivers that go back 16-bit, 32-bit, and 64-bit, trying to make everything backwards compatible. Yeah, that's why the NT kernel actually doesn't have as many issues. I agree with that, but it also comes down to, again, like you're saying, making it work with everything. And it comes down to the hardware, the driver layer as well. I'm not a computer scientist, but I know a couple things. What about using SSD to replace the SD card on the Raspberry Pi? Chuck, in my other world of home automation, I would strongly suggest using an SSD to replace an SD card, especially on the new Raspberry Pi, since you don't really need to do anything. You can plug an SSD directly into the USB port, and it will boot from that. The big thing about SSDs versus SD cards is when you're writing often to the media, SSDs will last a heck of a lot longer than an SD card, just because of the inherent way that those things work. Specifically on a printer, I haven't had issues with an SD card going funky. I tend to use decent SD cards, I think. A lot of them are fake, I guess, but most of them are SanDisk. I think I have a couple of, what do I have here? I have SanDisk, I have some PNYs. Yeah, mostly SanDisk. I think the SanDisk and PNYs. Yeah. I've never had an SD card flake out on a printer. But you could, for whatever reason. Doesn't the Ender 5 have something similar? Something similar to that. Sorry, I could never spell. I don't know what you're saying about the Ender 5 snapshot. I have an Ender 5 over there. It does not have anything similar. What are your thoughts on carbon fiber rails from Chaotic CNC? I'll be honest. They originally were going to send me the carbon fiber rails, but they said that they had a limited number of them. They didn't have enough of them, so they didn't send me one, which, for better or worse, and I'm trying not to be complete asinine here, but I know I can go buy them right now from Fabrico, and I'm considering buying them from somebody, but it makes me wonder if they actually have limited supply of them, or if they don't want me to use them for whatever reason. So what are your thoughts? Ryger. Oi. Ryger, are you from England? Anyways, I left a couple of comments on your tieback review. Please spread the word. Thread locker stick. Word of thread locker stick. Less mess and hassle. Yes, I use that quite frequently. I love my thread locker stick, and that's it right there. Very good stuff. That way you get less on the plastic. I think we're still out a little bit on whether or not thread locker does much to plastic. I think Robert had different situation I had, but he put his all under a lot of stress. So that's the difference. And then let's see here. Where are we next? Great show, Renee. Call it a day. Good night, everyone. I'm going to leave soon, too. As soon as I get through the rest of these things. You should stick around until I'm finished here, though. Because if I got to stay, you need to stay. Also, concern of corrosion with dissimilar metals on a 3D printer has been really hot and wet and really caused a problem. Your printer dry, electrolyte free. Yeah, I tend not to try to keep my printers very wet, even though I'm down in the basement. I'm in New England. I'm in Maine. Winters are pretty dry. Summers are pretty humid. It's been raining now for, well, it didn't rain today or yesterday, but it rained for, I think, 26 of the past 30 days. In terms of dissimilar metals, titanium normally does not rust or corrode. Aluminum obviously will corrode, but doesn't do it a lot. The extrusions are coated. And then there's always the third metal in there, which is the screws or the well nuts, or not well nuts, the T-nuts that are in there. So I've never seen much rust on a 3D printer. I know there's some talk about some people using really cheap hardware and having rust on them. But if you keep things clean, relatively maintained, I don't think you have a huge issue with it. Plus, you pretty much have a heated chamber with the heated bed inside there. So that's going to draw out a lot of the moisture that you might wind up in there. So I'm not overly concerned about that. Let's see here. We got wraps up. Let's see. Robert, Superman. What do you mean by Superman? Head rush. Jason, waiting to replace the carbon rods, which are slated for delivery tomorrow. CL had a bad batch. Same with the motor mounts. Good to know, Head rush. Head rush, just interested, when did the bad batch come out? When is the new batch coming out? I'm all for all the information getting out there, because either something's going to work or it's going to fail. And I think everybody should be able to know. Curious to make it much of a difference. Feel like it would be minimal. I think carbon rails and carbon fiber on the gantry would make a decent difference if you're going for speed. I think you'd have less, the next thing you really want to pare down is the weight of your actual tool head, which I think probably is more important than the rest of it all combined. So it'd be interesting to see somebody really work on paring down the weight on the tool head, maybe even getting smaller on the stepper, maybe doing something with the fans, doing some stuff to make that weight down. When I built this particular printer, I did buy titanium screws. Oh my God, were they expensive. I did buy titanium screws for the tool head. I did come up with my own print profile for the tool head parts, which had a little bit less infill, actually quite a bit less infill, but more, I forget, top, bottom, or wall layers or something. It was pretty much as strong as it would have been, but it weighed about 15% less. Let's see here. Which Blue Tech, Big Tree Tech? So I know for a fact that the SB2209 Focus has the accelerometer built into the tool head board. There might be other ones as well. I do have other ones around here, but I'm not going to pare down and look at those right now. But that one definitely has it. I'm in California. I've really been deep into the punk ska scene for a long time. Cool. Oi. So he must be from Southern California, I'm guessing. I don't think there's a lot of ska in Northern California. Maybe there is. I don't know. San Francisco is Northern California, but anyways, whatever. Was way much. Let's see. Robert on purpose weighs way too much for what happened to plastic. Yes, I know that. You know that, and I think we can meet in the middle. My brain types faster than my hands. English Uber was IT. Okay. Printer name. I don't know what you're talking about, Robert. Was it that obvious? You guys still know what the logo looks like, and half people don't even know what we're talking about. I'm at station in Virginia. Central Cali, can go somewhere else, but I can go where the Super Hornets are. Corrosion never sleeps. No, especially in the jungle. No, corrosion never sleeps. I agree with that. Again, I've never had an issue. My other kit over there is a Formbot kit, which are knowingly some of the cheapest quality parts that you could have, and I don't have any rust on those. And I am literally in my basement, so I don't think it's a huge deal. Dang it, printer name, Superman? Maybe. All right, guys. I don't know how many are still here, but I really appreciate the time I got to spend with you. I hope you guys had some fun. I hope you guys are at least partially as excited as I am to do the rebuild on the other printer. See what parts need to get swapped out. Start using some of this big tree tech stuff. That's coming up probably in a few weeks before we start doing that. I still got a couple videos put out on this guy over here. You guys haven't seen it print yet. It is printing. I'll just let you know because this is the live stream. You guys get the inside scoop. It's printing very well. I was going to put my doors on today with my 270-degree hinges, but I didn't get that done. Too busy talking to you guys. I was also going to do, because it came up last stream I did, somebody was talking about the power draw on the printer, so I went out and I got the stuff to be able to test power draw when everything was running at max, but we didn't get to that either. I am dead tired because my last 24 or 48 hours, so we'll call it with that, and I guess it just gives us stuff to talk about next stream, right? Let's see here. Super V, I see I stuck around. Good fun. Neat to see the box of goodies. Thanks, Kerms. Great streams. Great. Great stream. Have a good night. All right. Last. Thank you guys. I appreciate it. Hopefully I see you again. I'll try to do these weekly or every other week at best. Yeah. I really enjoy this time with you guys. If you're new and you're first time come in, please go check out the channel, leave some comments on some videos. I do check that stuff out. I do respond to all that stuff. My email is on my YouTube channel if you look around a little bit, so if you want to send me a more in-depth question or pictures. Also soliciting from people if you guys have them. Video questions, I think they're awesome. I play them right here in the live streams. We talk about them. We go over them. Sometimes I even answer the question. So anyways, to everybody, wherever you are, whether it be New Jersey, California, Portugal, what do we got else? We got Carolinas, we got Canada, New Brunswick, I think. What else we got? Who else we got? Where else we got? I don't know. Good night. Have a good night. Have a good afternoon. Have a good rest of your day. And Australia, on the other side of the globe. Thank you.